Mama, I'm in fear for my life from the long arm of the law.
Hello, and welcome to the Steel Regime.
Lawman is putting an end to my running, and I'm so far from my home.
I am your host, Brandon Sweeney, and this is your weekly dose of news and opinions on your Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh, Mama, I can hear you crying. You're so scared and all alone.
From Franco and Mean Joe to Big Ben and Debo, we will talk about it all right here on the Steel Regime. They came, they saw, and they conquered. Well, OTAs, that is. That's right, the Pittsburgh Steelers have wrapped up organized team activities, and we are moving on to mandatory minicamp next week. But don't you worry, the Steel Regime is going to give you a complete OTA recap by position. Starting with the guys up front, obviously, there's been a lot said about left tackle Alejandro Villanueva and his special situation. He is not currently under contract. Him and the Steelers are trying to work out a new deal, but really the only news coming from that front is the news that's been made from the media. Villanueva, if he played under his contract this year, if he signed it, he would be the 59th highest paid left tackle in the league. Not ideal for somebody that protects your franchise's blindside. And Villanueva really helped Ben Roethlisberger become one of the least hit quarterbacks last year. Obviously, it was a whole line effort, but Villanueva, a big part of that, protecting Roethlisberger's blindside. But maybe, like I said last week, maybe it has something to do with Gerald Hawkins and what the Steelers think they may have in Gerald Hawkins, a guy that had a great training camp last year until he got hurt with a shoulder injury that ended his season. Maybe the Steelers feel confident of what they have in the future and want to ride out with Villanueva until Hawkins is ready to step in. But the right thing you would think to do is to pay Villanueva. Well, we will see what happens with that. That's where it lays for now. That really is all I have for the offensive line. But if you take a look at this video recorded from the Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Final, the O-line had their own booth. Take a look at David DeCastro on the top left of the screen. Quarterback Ben Roethlisberger made his way to OTAs, but was wishing his running back would have found his way there too. Running back Le'Veon Bell, who has yet to sign his franchise tag tender, missed all 10 practices to organize team activities. We will see if he reports to mandatory minicamp next week. Moving on to the wide receivers, the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette wrote a great story on wide receiver Antonio Brown and just commenting on his work ethic. Even though it's June and it's OTAs and it's football in shorts, it's Antonio Brown being Antonio Brown, the guy that we've known that works his butt off and wants to shine as much and wants to perform as great as he can today as much as he wants to in the AFC Championship. He wants to make every catch possible, make every touchdown possible, and it's really impressive, and it's really something for the rest of the wide receiver group to see. We know that Martavis Bryant came back from suspension, and he met with the media for the first time on the first day of organized team activities.
Being here, it's been a whole year. A lot has changed. My teammates have changed, and the environment has changed. So, I'm just happy to be back. It's a blessing, like I said, and, to continue to work and just try to get everything back. When I first got to Vegas, I went to rehab at There's a Hope. My day would consist of me going to meetings from 10 to about 4, then I would go train, and I would go home and be with my family. That changed my whole life around compared to how I used to be. I developed better habits. Also, who I hang around, and I'm a family man. I just had a son in 7 weeks, so after I leave here, I'm going straight home to him. So, it just really me developing my life and getting back on track.
Rookie wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster has been reported to look very sharp, and the same with DeMarcus Ayers, has been having a pretty good OTAs. But we'll see what happens once we move into training camp, of course. On the tight end front, the team cut Ladarius Green just before OTAs began. Spectators expected the team to maybe look in free agency for a replacement. They have yet to do so. So we'll see if that happens. But right now, Jesse James remains ahead of the herd there. According to reports, Xavier Grimble was the last to leave, the last man off the field just about every OTA practice, which is pretty cool. It's pretty cool to see a guy put in that extra work. Hopefully it shows for Mr. Grimble there. And then some guys to look out for that hopefully the Steelers feel like they have some talent in the future is Scott Orndorff, the tight end from Pitt, and the big guy, Faison Odom. Right now are unknowns, but we'll see what happens with them as well. On the special teams front, the Steelers released punter A.J. Hughes and signed long snapper Cameron Canaday. Both kick returner and punt returner will be up for grabs, I would think, this training camp. I think a guy like Niall Davis has a chance to win kick returner and take that job away from Sammy Coates, who I think did a subpar job last year. And then going back to the Stanley Cup final, even though this is not a hockey show, but the Pittsburgh Steelers a lot of the Steelers were in attendance in Game 5, and kicker Chris Boswell was there too, and he was kicked out of the game for banging on the glass. Let me tell you something. When it comes to Pittsburgh Steelers kickers, watch out public bathrooms and hockey game glass, because you are in trouble when a Pittsburgh Steelers kicker is in the way. So let's take a break, and when we get back, we are going to break down what happened with the defense over organized team activities, and then we will get to our weekly poll. Please do not go anywhere. You are listening to the Steel Regime.
Crazy, but that's how it goes. Millions of people living this pose. Maybe it's not too late to learn how to love and forget how to hate. Mental wounds not healing, life's a bitter shame. I'm going off the rails on a crazy train. I'm going.
The Steelers are hoping to get some health back into their defensive line. Cameron Hayward is working his way back from his season-ending torn pectoral that he suffered last year. He will declare himself 100% again once he starts hitting in training camp. Stephon Tuitt, who is in line for a payday, could really care less, he says. He's more worried about becoming the best defensive lineman in the NFL. A guy like that, with that type of attitude and demeanor, has to make you really happy as a front office of a football team. And that's the type of guy you want to keep on your roster to set as an example for the other guys around. But he also has been unable to practice during OTAs because of hand surgery that he is recovering from. Tyson Alualu, also a spectator of all OTAs because of a calf injury. Javon Hargrave, the only healthy starter when OTAs started, sustained a minor tweaked shoulder during an OTA practice. Hopefully guys like Johnny Maxey and LT Walton benefited from the extra reps. Vince Williams is looking to fill the void that Lawrence Timmons, longtime Steeler linebacker, left behind. Rookie linebacker TJ Watt continues to study his position and continues to take notes from guys like James Harrison. Arthur Moats wants to be a leader for the young linebackers. Moving on to the secondary, second-year cornerback Artie Burns is taking cornerback Cam Sutton under his wing. The Steelers signed Damian Stafford, the safety. Sean Davis is working his way back from shoulder surgery he had over the offseason. Mike Mitchell added 10 pounds of muscle during the offseason. He was working out with James Harrison down in Phoenix, Arizona, and looks forward to continuing his role as a leader on the defense. So that is a wrap-up of OTAs, and in a nutshell, that is exactly what happened and the news that came out from organized team activities. Let's get to our poll question as we're getting closer and closer to the season, and you can smell it almost. What storyline are you most looking forward to playing out in training camp? Is it the wide receiver battle? There's a lot of guys in the wide receiver room. Who's the odd man out? So are you most looking forward to the wide receiver battle? Vince Williams becoming the starting inside linebacker beside Ryan Shazier. The cornerback battle. There's a lot of cornerbacks. Or TJ Watt's progression. So go ahead, guys. You can vote again on Twitter at the Steel Regime, and you can comment on YouTube in the comments below. And that's going to wrap it up for this week's show, guys. I want to thank you again for listening to another episode. We will be back next week, of course, talking about mandatory minicamp and the news that comes from there. Do not hesitate to get in touch with us on Twitter at The Steel Regime or subscribe to us on YouTube. But until next week, I want to thank you again, and you have been listening to The Steel Regime.
You guys that have been here, you know that's how we do it. We pick each other up, offense, defense, special teams. Young guys that just got here, that's how we do it. Sir. We pick each other up. We play football like we're Steelers, like we are a team. Sir. We're a team on three. 1, 2, 3. Team.